Welcome to the Childcare Revolution podcast, where we talk about all things childcare.
Hi, my name is Tegan.
And I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Patricia. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit.
Yes. I'm the only one not recording.
Oh, it shows that you are recording for sure, yeah.
In the participants.
Okay. Hi, listeners. You just caught a glimpse of the Childcare Revolution podcast backstage.
Behind the scene magic.
It's been a few weeks since we recorded the last time. It's gotten very busy since then. I'll start with Stephanie. Stephanie, how are you?
I don't really think there's like an answer to it. Yeah, hours got cut at my job, so I work 1 day a week, which is not desirable, but it is what it is at this point. And safety measures aren't really being followed, which isn't great either because hours got cut, so that's always stressful in itself. Other than that, I don't know what I've been doing, to be honest, these past couple of weeks. I don't know if you guys are both feeling the same way. Just feel like time just keeps going and I'm just kind of here.
Did you hear from your childcare job?
Yes, and I actually had to, I let them know that I'm going back to school, which is good. So yeah, they're gonna try to reopen on the 5th, and I let them know I'd be their supply. So that's even if they need me. So we'll see what August has to bring, I guess, when it gets there.
You're gonna be able to dedicate yourself to school full time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty lucky.
Which is good.
Awesome.
Yeah. Hopefully get some research position, something different, and try that out for a little bit.
That's awesome. Tegan, how are you?
I've been just busy with my internship. I'm almost finished. Yeah, I think I have like 3 more weeks.
Wow.
That went by so fast.
I have like a tiny summer vacation before I go back to school. Online.
Online too, right? Yeah.
Online too. Yeah. I think I've been doing okay. Trying to have some time for myself. Trying to bike, spend time outside. Just taking care of myself, but yeah, nothing special. Surviving.
It's the life right now.
That's great.
I am back at work. I don't know if listeners know already. I can't even remember when our last podcast was.
I don't think
No, I know it was the one that we were talking about being exhausted, but I now know what exhaustion is. Being at work is good because I got to see my kids, at least half of the original kids, and they are so happy to be back with other children. They're so happy to be back with us. So like that part is really good. It is really challenging not being able to talk to the parents at the end of the day. Really, really challenging. And of course, protocols, procedures, the limited staffing. Like you both know that I was very lucky that I worked in a preschool room that had twice the amount of staff required by the ministry. Instead of having 2 to 16, we had 4 to 16. Most of the time, the 4 of us were not there, like at the same time, because the way it worked was nobody needed to cover our breaks, but at least there was 2 of us all the time. And we are following still the 10-person cohort, because the 15-person thing was announced out of the blue. So at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day, we're by ourselves. We do have a half an hour after and before the children leave that we are there getting paid, doing work with no children, mostly to clean stuff, put stuff away, finish the program plan, like things like that. But it's still really challenging. By the second hour that I've been at work, my Fitbit already says I've done like 8,000 steps. It's insane. Um, but yeah, I just this week's podcast, I'm not gonna say week because we don't do it weekly, but this episode we thought we would talk about we need people to care about childcare. Um, and we need people who don't have children to care about childcare. We need people who don't have children in childcare. They have children but not in childcare to care about childcare because it's going to affect everybody's lives if we do not have an actual plan for reopening. Because they're saying that, oh, 90% of childcare centers are open in Ontario. That is a fallacy. That's a lie. That's not true,
Mm.
right? My center, we would have around 100 kids every summer. That's reduced capacity because in the summer we close some of our rooms. This summer we have 32.
Wow.
Does that count as being open? It does for those families, but what about the families that couldn't get in? Right? It's not because it's not just the parents can't do their work properly from home or go back to work. It's the children are missing out on the vital socialization, on the life skills they learn when they're in that group setting. So I'm really pissed off. I'm very angry. I'm very angry, especially because I open Twitter and I see so many people that I follow that are so angry and so vocal about school reopening and about the lack of support and the lack of funding and the lack of guidance. And we have been on that same boat for what, 600 years? I don't know when childcare was invented. I'm assuming the cave people had some sort of childcare system, but I
I've noticed that too.
and it makes me
When
so
it has to
angry.
do with the school system, it's like, yeah, we got to go help. Everyone needs to like start protests. Apparently, there was protests at
We support the
Kings
teachers
Park,
unions.
and then
Yes,
like
support the teachers unions, but also support your local childcare centers and your early child educators because we make a tenth of the money that teachers make, public school teachers. I don't even know how much private school teachers make. I don't know if it would be more. Um,
depends on the
and
place, I guess.
and we get maybe 0.5% of the recognition that they do. So it's very disheartening to see the difference in how the public treats school and childcare as if they're two separate things, as if we're talking about separate children, as if one was more important than the other.
Yeah.
I noticed something interesting today. I don't know if you guys saw the petition that's going around, but I think it's Bill 197 that they, of course, secretly tried to pass through. I haven't done a lot of research on it yet, but basically for the school boards, they're actually trying to make um, the the board of directors, like they can just be anyone that's not a teacher.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So like when people are getting outraged by that, that's what a lot of childcare centers are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Is
Yeah.
somebody that has a business background telling us how to interact with children on a daily and worrying about the cost of things rather than worrying about the lives of these children and
Especially in
how.
the big box private childcare. Yeah.
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 So I thought
And
that.
they're like Lache's excuse for this stupid shitty bill is to get like a more diverse population into directors, but that's going to affect marginalized populations and marginalized children and families even more because it's all political, right? So
Someone
people are going to be appointed for jobs and chosen for jobs who have the best connections, especially now
Someone,
without the requirement of being a teacher. Sorry, what were we going to say?
oh no, I was just going to say, like, someone fiscally responsible is going to come in and do what they think is okay to do, and it's not. And it's aggravating. Like, I was going to get into a rant about it today, like all afternoon, and I was like just deflated. So
It's all very disheartening. I just want to move to the middle of nowhere and have a bunch of goats and not think about it anymore, because even when you are a really good educator, and I think I am a really good educator, it's really shitty.
Yeah.
So it's really hard. Even when you have a good job, it's really hard. And we have no idea. Like, September is 5 weeks away,
Mm-hmm.
and we have no idea what school's gonna look like. Whenever they talk about schools, they don't mention school-based childcare. I'm in a school-based childcare center, a large childcare center, a large school. I think there are schools that are bigger, but it's the school population is pretty large. And I might not have a job in September. Like, if before and after programs are not a thing anymore, I don't think I have enough seniority to be like, yeah, if they have to cut some staff, I'm safe, you know?
Patricia, so actually, I don't think a lot of people will realize this connection between school and childcare and how childcare is affected by the school reopening plan too. So from your experience working at a school-based childcare, can you let us know a little bit more how it will affect childcare people? Or
So, I don't know the percentage, but a very large portion of at least Toronto childcare centers, especially nonprofit childcare centers, are based inside schools. So some of them have a little annex. Some of them are in the basement. Some of them share spaces. That's my case. We share most of our rooms. We only have 2 rooms that are exclusive use of the childcare center, of exclusive use of the childcare center. And um, if this thing of like having the cohorts and having children off for 2 weeks, like, I don't know how that's gonna work, but we have one JK room, we have one SK room, one grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, so on and so forth. All the children that go to the before and after program for JK, for SK, for whatever grade, they don't all go to the same class. They're not all from the same teacher. So they mix with other classes. So if you're talking about keeping numbers low, like keeping children on and off for 2 weeks or whatever, so that not a lot of bodies cross-contaminate with each other, how is childcare going to work? Are you going to open a childcare room inside each classroom with 3 children? Because if every class in the school has between 25 and 30 kids, I'd say that maybe 3 to 5 kids of each class in each grade are in childcare, maybe a little higher for some classes. Like, how that the math doesn't add up. And then before, my room was a preschool room. My room was a before and after program for JK and SK. So when it wasn't full day kindergarten, the kids that would go to school in the morning would come to our room in the afternoon. And then the kids that would go to school in the afternoon would come to our room in the morning. I never worked there like that. When I came to Canada, FTK was full on, at least wherever I worked. And so I never saw that. I only saw it as a preschool room. If we come back, like, this is coming from hypothesis in my mind. My bosses have not talked to us about September because they have no idea, right? But my hypothesis is, if they do the 2 week off, 2 week on thing, the daycare kids that don't have school for 2 weeks are going to be in that room. Like, that's my logic. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, that would be, I feel like that would be the number one priority, because they stopped doing intake for September because they don't know how September's happening, and we want to prioritize the families we already have. So that would be prioritizing the families we already have, because all my preschoolers are going to JK in September, right? So like that's really worrisome, especially from when all my papers that say that I can stay in Canada have my employer's name on it, right? Because it would be a huge headache. Not to mention, I don't have enough money saved up to make it less until I get my PR. You know, I don't know if I answered your question, but before I did my um, kindergarten placement, so it was my third placement in college, and before I did that, I never had understood what the shared space thing was. So for a lot of childcare centers that are located in schools, they have their stuff, like their materials, their games, toys, loose parts, blocks. Either they share with the school, it depends on the relationship, and it will depend on the relationship between each daycare room with that teacher, and the larger relationship of the school with the daycare, so they can share the materials or not, or their materials are locked up in cupboards or in shelves that the teacher and the children can touch during the day. Like, it's a very complicated um,
Dynamics.
relationship and dynamic.
Mhm.
I only worked in a shared room for 1 year. I'm very lucky. Most educators, I think, work split shifts in shared rooms, because that's what most of the children are. They grow out of preschool, toddler, and infant very fast. And I had a really good relationship with the teacher in that room, but I know that that's not the rule. And when I did my placement at the school, I saw the teacher say a lot of things about the daycare that I had no way of proving her right or wrong. But I highly doubt that she was right, because she was a piece of work. She should not be around children. Um, And the other thing is, I was just talking to a coworker about this today. But did you know that public health has no jurisdiction inside school board schools? So the school board is not visited by public health. So, like, when you work in a childcare center, you get an inspection from public health,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
but
why.
when when public health comes to visit the daycare, they just go into the daycare rooms. They don't like what the school does. It doesn't matter. I don't think people know this, because I didn't know this until we got inspected and got told that we couldn't wash our paintbrushes in our sink. Um,
Like, I know that I've never seen a visit in a school because I
and
haven't
that's
spent
why.
enough time in it. But
Mhm.
like, you also can tell that the toys have not been washed
Yeah.
Yeah.
at all.
Even for the kids, like if they are in the childcare programs, they are required to like wash hands before and after going outside, for example. But like in schools, they're not required to do that.
Yeah.
Like I talked to a kindergarten educators, ECEs, once, and she was like, that is really really complicated for the children. Like if you're in
Exactly.
school, you don't have to do that, but like after school, you have to wash your hands. So it's like
Yeah.
this whole weird things for the kids to understand.
Which is just like
And it
basic
makes no sense.
hygiene.
It
Yeah.
makes no sense. And we're already living a very different life than we were 6 months ago. So that has to change, because what childcare centers need to do to keep their stuff, like to keep their ducks in the line on a line, is way above what school needs to do. When we get way below recognition, way below pay, and way below respect, right? I've heard so many times, not from the current parents that I have or last year when I was in preschool, but before and at my other job, it was like, oh, she's just a daycare teacher. Like that, like with that face, she's just a daycare teacher.
Can't.
Not just from parents, but from school employees as well. Oh, she's daycare staff. Yeah, I'm daycare staff, but I know where all the EpiPens are. I know which kids have allergies. Do you know that? Because EpiPens for children in school, if they don't carry their own, they stay in the office. So if you're in the third floor and the EpiPen is in the office all the way downstairs, your child could be dead by the end of the time that the person goes down and up again.
And look for it.
Yeah, because they're all in one drawer. I don't know if that's the case in every school, but I've seen two schools that are like that. So that's very interesting. Um, like the cleanliness that we have to keep up as a childcare center is way above, right? Like Stephanie
Yeah.
was saying, toys need to be washed, children's hands need to be washed, but it's also things like, so in my kindergarten placement, there was a water table, and when we started and it was the first day of school, I noticed that the water was still there since June. So it looked really gross.
So,
And like before the kids came in, after I had introduced myself to the OCT and the ECE, I was like, you know what? I'm going to clean out this water table because it's really gross. And the ECE and the OCT did not have a good relationship. My ECE quit 3 weeks into my placement. It was great. So I was left alone with the children all the time. Um, which is not allowed. If you don't know that, if you're a student, you're not allowed to be alone with the children.
especially because we don't get paid in our placements. First off, let's just put that in there too. Like, there's no compensation for this whatsoever.
um, and so when I said that I'm gonna clean this, the EC made a face like she's gonna say something, and the OCT was like, no, 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 that's daycare mentality. You don't have to clean it. And I'm like, girl, this water is green. It's moldy. It's disgusting. We don't do things just because they're required. Some things, yes, you do them because they're required. Like right now, I have to write down every time I wash my hands because that's a requirement. Sure. So I'm writing down all the time because I wash my hands all the time, as you can tell by the sores on my hands. But that's like basic logic that children, especially children that were starting JK, and some of them had never been to daycare or never been to school, they're gonna put things in their mouths. Even if you don't, like you don't want to put your hand in there. Why? There's way too many people working with children who don't like children or don't care for them. Honestly, like that's a big part of the problem.
I feel like this is an underlying issue that I've noticed. Like, people think that we, like, ECEs care for children's physical needs and whatever, and then they expected that care will stop whenever the kid enters school. So this is the whole divide between care and education, and that's why we are undervalued so much, because we only attend to children's physical and emotional well-being, and we don't educate them like teachers in school do. I don't know. That's what I've noticed. Like, even in the media, even like right now when childcare is getting the spotlight, they only talk about childcare as something valuable to the parents,
To the economy, yeah.
to the economy, but not the children themselves. As
Yeah.
we do nothing for the children. We just keep them safe and quiet and like liberate the parents so they can get back to work.
Like some things like I've like heard other educators say is like, none of them are dead yet, so I guess I'm doing my job right. And like, you can't think like that. First off, that's not a good way to think, because we don't just take care of their physical needs. You're taking care of
Yeah, but
their
that's also
mental
part
needs.
of a really broken system, right?
Yes, it
That
is.
doesn't value the educator. Because I was asked how I was today, and I answered that I get 7 children at the beginning of the day, and I return the same 7 at the end of the day. Because the children don't notice what I'm going through. They're happy playing in the mud. They're happy playing with the water, with their water beads, with their dinosaurs, looking for bugs, watching birds, all of those things that they do with me all day. But in the backstage, in my mind, I'm doing all these things behind that are making me exhausted.
But
And
that's what people think. They think we're literally just getting them from point A to B rather than like the whole middle aspect of it all.
yeah.
Right? So like that statement kind of gets lost in it in translation because everyone just thinks that that's all we're doing. We're just making sure their diapers change, they're fed. The amount of focus on their eating habits is incredible. And I understand why, because eating is so important. But the child as a whole, we are whole as educators as well. And we need to make sure that all of those things are cared for as equally as the next thing.
I know there are studies, I think most of them were done on animals, um, of what happens to the adults if the child or if the baby is not properly cared for with um, love and care and kindness that is, appropriate to whatever species you're talking about. And if you look at a cat or a dog that didn't have an owner when they were babies, they're going to be aggressive animals when they grow up. If you look at a person who had absent parents, came from um, a place that they didn't have someone that was caring for them, they might become an aggressive person. Because it's all like, and aggressive is just one word to describe what can be a lot of things. You can be aggressive, you can be depressed, you can be so many things, right? So it's caring for the child as a whole, and it's the kind of thing that, like Tegan was saying, that once the child starts going to school, we don't care about them anymore, and that's not it. Because the children in my first placement are now 7. They were 1.5 when I met them, 2, around that, as a toddler room, and I still think about them all the time. I think about the parents that confided in the ECEs, and I happened to hear that they were really trying to have another baby and they kept having miscarriages. I keep thinking about that family. And were they able to have another baby? Were they able to adopt? Like, what happened to that family? Did infertility destroy their marriage? Like, what happened? Because I really hope that that little girl is a big sister now, right? But it's the kind of thing that, like, because we care, because we love, because we show all of these things, we're weak, we're lesser than, right? Because caring is a female characteristic, and that's being weaker. And I want everybody that is listening to this right now to go search on the internet which countries are the ones that are dealing with this shit show of a pandemic well, because it's all countries that are being led by women. Because care, like, you can't get through this without caring. I'm not taking the subway to work this week because I'm supposed to be getting my period, and I don't ride the bike on my period. That's not a good experience. I've tried it, it's not good. And I'm on the subway, and if I ever see someone not wearing a mask, or wearing the mask here, which doesn't do anything, um, it's always a man. Because the mask is an act of caring for others, right? Because it's not protecting you, it's protecting the person around you. So to me, it's the perfect analogy. There was a picture that came out this week of Beyonce and Jay-Z going for a bike ride, and Beyonce has a mask on and Jay-Z has no mask on.
Yeah.
So is the woman.
I think we really need to stop like thinking that caring is something just naturally a women thing.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not.
It's a socialized thing.
It's a socialized thing,
If
and
we were given the opportunity not to care, I think a lot of us would take it because it's mentally like exhausting and crushing, and it's like sometimes not worth it in the end because it's just overwhelming.
And,
But
like,
still, it's better to care than not to care. So I'm not saying.
especially for our sector, like
I'm sorry,
because of that kind of thinking, they think that we're unskilled. They think that because we're women, we're born just caring well. No, we don't. We're not. We go to school for becoming an ECE. It's not just we're born caring well for children, just because we love children, then we can become ECEs.
I think that there are definitely ECs out there who have found their calling, that being with children, being around children is their calling. Um, but it is that kind of thing that it's the same way that pretty much every woman in every culture that I'm familiar with is expected to become a mother one day. And when you say you don't want to, oh, you'll change your mind, honey. Or like how in most places in the world, if you want to tie your tubes, you have to get your husband's consent, or you have to wait until you're of a certain age. So you can never stop taking those hormones that don't make you get pregnant because you don't have a choice over your body. It's a very complicated issue. It goes beyond just caring and being a woman. But today, my kids have been very into mud and making mud cakes. Um, so today they made mud cakes and mud pies, and they were all saying they were getting married. Oh, we're making these cakes and these pies because we're getting married. And I was like, what does getting married mean? And one of the answers was, well, it's when you have your best friend and you want your best friend to be your family. So you get married to them. And I was like, that's beautiful. I really like that. That you want your best friend to be your family. But you know what? You should only get married when you're a grown up to another grown up that wants to marry you, okay? Okay. But we're getting married. And the they started making a song about like I'm getting married on my bike. Like it was, I think they either watched something or they heard a grown up talk about getting married, or one of my room partners is getting married next week, but she's off this week, so I don't know if they're thinking about her. But it was pretty sweet, and um, it was like I have these moments throughout my day that as much as stressed as I am or as burnt out as I am, I'm like, "Oh, okay. That's why I'm here. It's to hear things like this because I'm great in a crisis. I'm great at having meetings with parents if we have to talk about looking into their children's behavior a little deeper, like things like that. I'm good in those situations. I'm nervous, but I can hold my own and explain my concerns and focus on the children's strengths. But those moments, the happy moments, the sweet moments, the moment of it's because he's my best friend and I want him to be my family. Like that saves the day. And then the fact that my job involves that, and to me I say that that saved the day because it's a cute thing, because it's a sweet thing. It's seen as less than if I was in an office job, and what made my day was making $1 million because I sold I don't know, what do people sell for $1 million? A car, a house, insurance.
Trading
What's the one?
stocks.
Trade stock. Yeah, I was like, oh, what's that in English? I don't know. Um, it's I don't even know. I don't even know what to say anymore to tell people to care about childcare because
I
why
think
don't you tell me why you don't care about childcare? Like people who don't care, who don't sign a petition, share a post, don't look at the Minister of Education and go, what the fuck is this fucking idiot doing up there? He's not a teacher, not a parent, not an educator. What are you doing? You've never been in a public school in your life, not as a student, not as an employee. What are you doing? I know what he's doing. I know the agenda that I hypothesize, but it's just like if you don't care about public education and public childcare, like you're a monster. Sorry.
You know what I think when you were saying that, Patricia? Like,
That I'm losing my mind? Yes, I am.
yeah, and that you were like, you were feeling exhausted at work, but children were your motivation, your
Yeah.
own motivation. I think you deserve more than that. I think you deserve decent work, decent wages, like a working conditions that make you feel like working, make you enjoy working with children, because so many ECEs out there have to take on like those bad moments and just like get through it without any kind of support from the.
But that's the thing. I think I get to appreciate those moments because I go home and if I look at my bank account, it's pretty healthy because I don't get paid $14 an hour. I get paid a decent fair wage for my work and my qualifications. And before COVID, I had really awesome work conditions. And I think that um, my employers are trying to provide those for us. Um, I think there are things that before we reopened, we couldn't predict.
Mhm.
But I hope that if we reopen somewhat resembling normal someday, that those conditions are back. Like our high ratios, well, I mean high ratios like high teacher to student ratio and low student to teacher ratio. Um, and planning time and like things like that that just feel like they faded away.
Mm.
Um, I
I think it's time for us to start demanding us to be cared about. I think a lot of us, like I think the reason why they've increased the cohort sizes and things like that, and just basic disrespect to educators and our leaders professionals, is that we always manage.
oh, but that's all. That's it. Always, right? We
So we
make
have
it.
to stop managing.
But how do you stop managing? Are you like because I can't strike. I'm not unionized. So if
I
I
know.
refuse to work, it's goodbye. Well, next.
That's
Um,
why we collectively have to do it together, is stop managing together. It's in any like workforce whatsoever. It's this thing of people not caring about each other, not realizing that we're stronger in numbers and we are alone, and just always managing and like making things go day by day. Like
but
sometimes we
that's
have to.
the but that's the thing, Stephanie. We can't stop managing it because stop managing it means you can either lose your job or children can be in an unsafe situation, right? So it's a very I see what you're saying, and I wish that we could just like, yep, we're not opening our doors. I'm not walking in there. But that's not a reality of our field. We're not like public school teachers who are unionized. We're not like public school employees who are unionized, nurses,
Yeah.
um, so on and so forth. And I'm not sure if the PSWs in long-term care homes are unionized, but they were one of the hardest hit professions in this pandemic, and I don't feel like anything has been done. The premier saying that they're going to get AC for all the long-term care homes. Do you want to do that to school too? I don't know. My room has an AC and it's still very hot, so um, I'm feeling really disheartened, and I thought like especially like when we started the podcast, when I started my open Instagram, I was feeling very hopeful. I was feeling that this was going to be an opportunity for this country and the world in general to get its shit together and stop caring about money and start caring about people. And I am again disappointed and not surprised. We have a prime minister that promised that he was a feminist, that he wanted equality for all because it's 2015, and still we have no universal childcare across this fucking country. I moved here to give my potential hypothetical children a better life. I'm not going to be able to afford having children. So it sometimes it feels pointless. Like, it's not pointless because I've met my amazing partner, I've started this amazing profession, I found my calling, like all of those things, made awesome friends, adopted amazing cats, all of those things. But the one of the number one reasons for me to move here and live my life in this very frustrating and limited language um is not going to happen, probably. So it's just I'm very much done. And if I'm done getting paid way above minimum wage, I cannot imagine what ECEs in the big box childcare centers out there are feeling. Like, I see people talking about reopening on the Facebook groups, and people are like, "Yeah, I'm with 8 children all day, and our bathroom is outside our room, so we all have to go to the bathroom together and wait, and I have to spray the bathroom." And it's like, what if in that group that person had a child with special needs? What if in that group that person had a child that is not able to wait? Do you have cats in your room, Stephanie?
Yes, he's scratching on the cardboard.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. I was just like, what's that noise? It's Rupee. Hi,
How do
Rupee.
you know?
Because you said he. Hi,
Oh,
Rupee. Hi, baby. You look like Luigi.
it's too bright for you, isn't it? Sorry, boo.
Mer. Um, like the reopening plan, the cohort system, those limitations are not taking children with special needs into consideration. They're not
They
taking
can.
neurodiverse children into consideration. It's disgusting.
They were already pushed to the side, and now it's like they're not even
Even
existing
more.
anymore.
Yeah.
And it's yeah. Anyway,
I am terrified of September. Terrified. Kind of like, I don't even know what to hope for. Do I hope for a normal reopening so I can keep my job, but risk getting COVID and dying? Or do I hope for not having a job and risk my immigration process? Or for my coworkers losing my job? Like, do I have to hope for that? I don't, because I don't know, right? Nobody knows. If I call my employer right now and ask her, like, hey, what's happening in September? She's going to hang up on me. She wouldn't do that. She's a nice lady. But
well, the way things have been working, they've just been like flinging stuff at us like left, right, center. So who knows what's going to happen in the span of a month?
right, the that deadline for the school reopening plan, I think, is like August 4th or something. Um, how is the biggest school board in the country going to reopen with like a month's notice? Unless they've really been planning important stuff behind the scenes. Because in front of the scenes, no, I don't see anything impressive. I just like, it really, it makes me sad and it makes me happy, like right now, because we don't see the parents. If I have to talk to a parent, I call them at the end of the day, that half hour that I have without children. And every time, even if I'm calling to say, hey, your child um ate some dirt, I don't know, I wouldn't call to say that. But even if I'm calling with like, oh, your child had an accident and they had like a huge goose egg on their head, like that kind of thing, Of course, we don't talk about only one thing. We're people, so we're like, oh, how are you? Blah blah blah. And all the parents that I've called in the past 2 weeks have said, you know what, Patricia, we're so happy that our child is back. Not because of our work, not because of having only one child in the house is helping, but because we see how happy our child is. Right? We see how much he missed his friends. We see how much he missed you and his other teachers, and how important what you do is. And I want to say, like, hi, can you call the Minister of Education and say that? Can you tell the people in charge that early child education is important, and that just because I'm not forcing 3-year-olds to do worksheets, it doesn't mean that they're not learning things?
Mhm. And
I'm PMSing and I have a lot of anger inside me. Um, so I
Can I,
just,
the one day, because I recently had the meeting with my MPP and stuff,
yeah.
and basically I had a few parents that were able to make it, which was amazing. And one of the parents that I'm very close to and I appreciate so dearly, she actually had her kids on the webcam as well. And she
Mm.
basically turned to my MPP and was like, this is who we're talking about right now. And it was like a direct image of these two young children that are going to be in the care of educators, or not in the care of educators at the time because things were closed. And like, it's like people like that that just make us feel appreciated, make the children's day and their lives feel appreciated, and we just need more of it.
Yeah, but I need appreciation in the form of policy,
Yes,
right?
but we need
Like
people to push policy.
I love parents getting vocal and meeting with their MPPs, and like, especially not seeing the parents. How do I ask that? Right? Like, and I'm always questioning if I talk to a parent about advocacy and I talk to a parent about, hey, have you sent a letter to your MPP? Like in the case of my childcare center, the MPP in our area is ProChild Care, um, because he's a reasonable human being. Shout out to Peter Tabbins. And but like, would I get in trouble? Like I always have that in the back of my mind. Well, am I gonna get in trouble for talking to a parent about this?
I think that's the thing that we've kind of been so scared about, is we're not honest with people about our situations, and that's what actually forces us to like down more. Um, so talking about it with like your operators, with your supervisors, with the parents, but like
Yeah.
obviously in like tasteful ways. You're not just going to be like, here, sign this petition like right now in your face. You're going to bring it up through conversation and like
Because
through
that's the
caring.
thing. But like, that's the thing, that like we should be able to do that. We should be able to
Yes.
do that, because what I'm asking for is for childcare to become part of public education. I'm asking for childcare to be treated like JK and SK are treated. I'm asking for this basic human necessity, which is to have your children cared for and taught and learn how to be a person from specialists, because that's what they're doing with us. They're learning how to be a person with someone who knows what it takes to become a person, right? um I want us to be taking that seriously, and I want that to be free.
for the families, for the
I
children.
want that to be free for the families. I want families to pay $0 for childcare. So like, that's why I'm kind of like, can we go sign this? I love that Stephanie is like having his fashion show. That she goes back and forth and
I'm
she
so
shows
sorry.
her
Rupert,
beautiful lighting.
Rupert was scratching at the door again. He's
That's
just too
okay.
much.
That's okay. It's my friend Rupi.
Yeah, he's poopy roopy. Um, but yeah, I think it's just obviously, once again, I'm going to be honest, I don't think we're ever going to reap the benefits of the childcare crisis and coming past it. I think we just need to do it for later on, and that's heartbreaking all in itself. But if we don't fight for it, then there's
What do you mean, like reap the effects of the childcare crisis?
like, I mean, like if things move forward and policy changes do happen, I don't know if we would ever see it,
Like it
just
won't be in
because,
our lifetime.
Lifetime.
yes. But
How depressing is that? How
I know.
depressing is that? I'm probably, if the
Do
world
you
doesn't
feel that
end,
way too?
if the world doesn't end, I'm probably gonna live about 55 to 60 more years, if not more. And I'm not gonna see that happen in a first world country. Fuck off.
It's like we're building our future on something that is about to collapse. Oh my
Yeah.
But it's also like sometimes it feels like fighting a fight that we're not going to be able, I think that that's what Stephanie was saying. We're fighting a fight that we're not going to be able to enjoy the results of that fight. Even if that fight has good results, we're not going to be able to enjoy it, because that's like
But that doesn't mean you don't stop.
Right.
every step forward is like 2 steps forwards, 1 step backwards, or whatever it is, that like we're moving very, very slow. But it's like, oh, they opened a new childcare center. Where did they open that new childcare center? Was it in an area that needs those kind of services to be affordable? No. It's in like in the middle of a bunch of expensive condos where people have a lot of money and they can afford to put their children in care. Like what about the populations that don't have that kind of money? There's like 2 daycares around my neighborhood. And my building has 512 units. That's a lot of children. And those families can't afford childcare.
Can I tell you something disturbing? I don't know if I've already said this. I can't remember anymore. But there was a pub on Yonge Street in Richmond Hill, and it's called the Falcon Firkin, and it recently closed down.
Okay.
And it still has all the and this pub is like old. Like smoking was allowed inside of it at one point, like all of it. And basically, there's still the Coors Light labels all over the windows. It still looks like a pub. And on top of it, there is a childcare opening sign, and they're making it into a childcare. It has one of those dumbass names like bubbly kids, la la la, like stupid. And I'm sorry if anyone likes those names. I'm just not personally a fan. And yeah, it's just disgusting that someone thinks a pub could be turned into a childcare center. Like, I don't get it.
And it's like big companies and people with a lot of money are getting all kinds of government support. For us, breadcrumbs, crickets, oh, the leftovers.
A whole
And
bunch of nada.
And like you guys were saying, we're getting what we're getting because of the economy. Because parents need to go back to work to move forward the capitalist machine, not because the children need fucking care.
Yeah,
I hate it. I hate it all. I'm gonna move. You guys are gonna see it. I'm gonna get my PR one day, and I'm gonna move to the middle of nowhere. I'm gonna have a bunch of goats, and I'm gonna run a farm preschool. And
I was talking about that with my friend. A zoo preschool, yo. Sorry.
it's gonna be a farm preschool, and we're gonna raise chickens and raise goats, and they're gonna learn
Alpacas.
how to plant. No, I don't want. I'm not gonna put an alpaca here. They're not made for this climate.
That's true.
And they're gonna learn how to plant vegetables, and we're gonna cook, and we're gonna learn how to be good people, and we're gonna sing, and they're all gonna be fluent in Portuguese, and it's gonna be beautiful. I don't know where I'm gonna do this, but and whose children I'm gonna take. But if you're interested, in about 10 years, hit me up. I don't even know if I'm gonna survive that long, honestly. It's I have so much anger in my heart and so much exhaustion in my body and in my mind that I can't. Am I gonna make it to Christmas this year? I don't know. I might just melt.
People need to care about childcare. Care about childcare. Because care is important. Because care doesn't stop. Even when you're an adult,
Um, I follow this excellent woman on Instagram. She is a Brazilian psychologist, and she specializes in children and parenting. And she talks about like how sometimes the messages we give to children are contradictory to our actions. And she was asking about like what did her followers think about people who say they hate children. And like there's a lot of like there's a lot of people out there who hate children. There's a lot of people out there who hate children, which makes no fucking sense. For you to be a person this size, you were once a child. You might not like noise. You might not like feeling sticky. You might not like Paw Patrol, but you cannot hate children. You might be antisocial. You might be a loner, but you can like what? What? How you don't have to love them. But like the fact, like child-free weddings are a thing because they don't want the children to ruin their special day. What? I'm very judgmental today. I'm just
Well,
hating on everybody.
that's actually another idea, another dominant idea that children is not self-sufficient, children is not enough, children is imperfect, children is just like miniature of adults. They can't think by themselves. They
Is
need,
this the 1800s?
yeah.
I had a psychology teacher. I forget if it was in university. I think it was in high school actually. And she didn't mean it in a bad way, but she goes in the sense of like people having children is very different. Before, people may have had them because they had like farms they had to take care
Yeah,
of. They needed the extra support. It's
yeah,
just they had lots of children, for instance.
yeah.
And now children, and I'm using this term in the way it was said, and it's not in a disrespectful way whatsoever, but children are more of accessories nowadays. And they're getting treated like accessories, and they're human beings that have their own minds, their own willpower, their own abilities, their own characteristics that grow up to be us. They're not just something that can like be pushed around like we do to them every single day.
I see people having more patience and giving more grace to like dogs than they do to children. I like that's what I don't get. You know that to become a person this size with access to internet to say this bullshit on Facebook, you had to have been a child. Someone wiped your bum. Someone sat with you, hopefully, and read you stories and sang you songs. Someone went on walks with you and counted red cars and looked for birds' nests and talked about bees and butterflies and all the bugs that you can find. Someone did that. So, like, for people to hate, yeah, it makes me really mad. It's,
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
but yeah.
I
Just
feel like I went completely off topic several times.
That's
We
fine. I think this is a
we need
mishmash.
to schedule recordings from when I'm not a hormonal mess. Meaning I'm gonna have to leave the podcast, girls. I'm sorry.
no, actually, I think everything we're saying is just so relevant, and it's part of the reason why care is so devalued, because we think that it's just a physical, emotional thing. We don't think it's a holistic thing. We treat education as a public good, but the way Canada treating childcare is like a social welfare kind of thing. Like instead of making childcare system, oh, we don't even have a system yet, but what?
No.
Instead of creating a childcare national system, they give money to parent through the Canada Child Benefits. And like how much? Like I think it's $160 a month for parents to have options.
Wow, that opens a lot of doors.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
Like,
we're cutting down on red tape so parents can have options. Are those options unlicensed childcare centers where teachers are racist and they're not called out on their racism? Are those options home daycares where children are gonna fucking drown or going to be cared for by pedophiles like it just happened a few months ago that it came out? Is more options children being left alone with an iPad in a home daycare. There's awesome home daycares out there. I'm not shitting on home daycare.
licensed child centers give iPads to children to. I worked at one, and I was like, "What are you doing?" Like, they're allowed 1 hour max as a toddler, and you're like sitting them in front of it for like
Like,
an hour.
we're being encouraged to be outside as much as possible because of COVID.
Mm.
It is really hot most days, and I'm still going outside all the time. A lot of water breaks, a lot of water play. We're trying to stay cool, a lot of mud. And most of the days, my shift is 7 hours. I'm outside. If I'm late, I'm outside for like 4.5 hours, which is a pretty good amount. But I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, I'm not doing that just because my employer is saying, "Hey, it's better for COVID." It's because I see that my children are calmer, they are happier, they are more alert, you know, and they are making positive connections with their peers.
Mm.
They're making positive connections with me and with their environment. Like there's a house that is going under renovations across the street from our playground, and today they were sawing through rocks, and that was very very loud. And still, the children were so happy to be outside. Especially now, they've been inside, probably having way more screen time than their parents wanted them to for 4 months.
Mhm.
So like that kind of stuff. Like it's just what's going to happen in September?
Okay, I think people need to think, to know that if they don't care about childcare, children will get the bad quality care.
Well, I don't think people care about that because we've already established in this conversation that there's a lot of people who don't care about educators, people don't care about care work, and people don't care about children, right? But so I'm going to speak in terms that people will understand. If you, Stephanie, work in an office with Tegan, and Tegan has 2 children that she couldn't find childcare for, guess who's going to have to make up for Tegan's work? You. Your
Guess
shift,
who's gonna lose their job? Tegan.
you might either get 12-hour shifts to make up for that bullshit, take work home. I don't know if you would be compensated. Would Tegan still be able to keep her job from home? Not every job can be done from home. Teachers can't work from home.
No.
Like,
Online school is a lie, is a fallacy. It doesn't work for the children. I don't know if it works for teenagers, but it would not work for me.
No. I think like the recent statistics that came out say that like 60% of jobs in Canada cannot be done from home.
And it's also, how are you going to do your important Bay Street job that you have to like look at numbers and type stuff on a computer with your 2-year-old running around and crying and being a 2-year-old?
Like, remember we read that articles when the toddler that had to stay at home with her mom working, she gave a thumb down for the time being at home with her mom because
And it's not because parents don't love their children. It's because parents cannot lose their jobs.
and they can't just doing
There are, I've met a few parents that took these 4 months and they were like, I'm going to be there for my children. I'm not going to look at my phone. And they were able to do that. But there's also the fact that being a parent and having a career should not be a choice. You should be able to have both.
Mhm.
Most of the people that are being affected by having to make that choice are women, right? Like that's fact, that's the majority.
Well, not to mention, like, you need a double income to even, like, have a living nowadays. So,
And it's the kind of thing that, like, I like to think that most people do their jobs because they love it. They might not love all aspects of it. They might not love their current job, but they love their work in some aspect. So you chose that career because of X, Y, and Z. And those X, Y, and Z, it's because it makes you happy. In some way, it makes you happy. Being with your child, your unhappy child at home, not being able to do your job properly, how is that going to work on your mental health? Like, our generation was already doomed with mental health issues. We're
And
all riddled with anxiety, we're all riddled with depression, and now after this shit show, with the lack of leadership, with the lack of transparency, with the lack of clarity, with the lack of looking at what actual people, not filthy rich people, are living their lives, and being like, oh, so we need to work on this. Also, we need to make sure that children can be at school safely. We need to make sure that children can be at childcare safely, so that their parents that are going to be buying stuff to make the economy go forward, are going to be ordering food so the economy can go forward, are mentally stable to continue to do so.
I think this is a great way to end off. I think Patricia just, like, nailed it in that whole, like, that was,
yeah,
like,
imagine
I
like
think we're all just fucking frustrated.
yeah,
But,
I just can't we're like we are mentally not healthy. How can we imagine like the future for our children? Like, oh my god.
A lot of the parents, when we went for visits last week, like not last week, the week before we opened, they said, you guys are going to get like a group of feral children, right? And there was a little bit of that because they had very little structure when they were at home.
Mm.
And when they came into our room, even though we kept like artwork up and we kept pictures up, it was still looked really foreign because a lot of things were missing. A lot of children were missing, right? And half the teachers are missing. So, excuse me, I burped. I burped live on a podcast. I just had a pizza with potatoes, listeners. It was delicious. Um, week 2, they're a little less feral, but there are things that I can tell that, like, those 4 months at home changed them. Children that used to be able to be interacting with each other all day now are telling, I need space from you, to their peers, to their teachers, because they get extra frustrated, they get extra sad, extra angry. It's a mess. If Stephen, what's his name? Stephen Lecce. If you're listening, I invite you to email me at thechildcarerevolutionpod@gmail.com, so you can come spend a day with me. And
yes.
I work at a good place. I get paid well. I get benefits. I get paid planning time. Hi, Buffy. Hi, Buffy. You're so cute. But I want to see you do my job before you make decisions for my sector. If I had a mic, I'd drop it.
I don't even know
Boom.
what you're doing.
Drop the kitty.
I'm not gonna. Poor kid.
Well.
I think we should end before I go on another rant. Because
So
otherwise,
we've reached a solid hour and 10 minutes, everybody.
of course we did.
So,
Yeah. I'm sorry.
so that was great. We had a whole rant of everything and anything, and you can tell that every single one of us is just done. But we're still advocating, and you should too, because we care, and you should care, and care about childcare.
Right, Buffy?
Do you care, Buffy?
Oh.
Who has a story to share? I kind of have one, but it's really short.
You share it. We have
Like a good, it's like a kind of a good message because things are opening again. Let me put this little one down. But basically I was a supply staff in a center, and we were coming in from transition, so everyone was washing their hands as usual. And this little toddler's in the bathroom, and she puts soap on her hands. She starts rubbing her hands. And she looks at her hands and she goes, "Oh shit." And everyone just froze. And I turned to her and I'm like, "What did you say?" And she goes, and she continues to wash her hands. So moral of this story is if you look at your hands and you go, "Oh shit," go and wash them. Because like, yeah, it's just, this is what you need to do right now. Be careful, be caring, and just fucking wash your hands.
And be careful what you say around your kids, because I am if I ever have a child, they will probably be a potty mouth. But I will wear that as a badge of honor. Because I was not allowed to swear when I was a child, and that scarred me very deeply because my parents both swore a lot. And I think that's hilarious. I would not let my child swear in front of other children. Maybe. But yeah, be careful what you say because we hear everything. I know even parents who, I'm not going to say it. I listen. My mommy and daddy were wrestling last night. Naked.
Oh man.
That's not wrestling. I don't think you could hear me. That's not wrestling, honey.
The Childcare Revolution podcast would like to remind our listeners that we are not affiliated with any colleges, universities, associations, or institutions. We're just a couple of passionate educators speaking some thoughts into the air. Thank you for joining us. Please like, follow, and subscribe to listen to more episodes of the Childcare Revolution podcast.
Someone should take the microphone away from me. Otherwise, I'm going to talk for another hour. Can we say bye?
Bye, listeners. I hope you enjoy seeing our faces.
Follow us on every social media. We're not on TikTok, but we're on everything else. CCR Pod on Twitter, and Childcare Revolution Podcast on Facebook, and Childcare Revolution Pod on Instagram. Right?
Love you guys. Hope you guys are doing better than we are.
Hopefully.
Bye.
Bye.